Information will be from ATO area.
Information Center spokesman, this is the latest update from ATO zone. Proszę pan Andriy.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Yesterday we informed you about cutoff in intensity of shelling after the 2 a.m. But despite our expectations about the regime of calm, yesterday the shellings were resumed. Specifically, I would like to mention the attack on Donetsk airport, shelling from artillery, Grad installations and tanks. Ukrainian servicemen opened fire in response. Despite losses, the enemy continued attacks. Also, terrorists committed ulterior shelling on the residential quarters in Alhavatka, Yenakiv, and Timofeevka village in Shakhtarsky district, and also committed shelling of Popasna from the side of Kalinova. These shellings could not be explained with any military necessity. These are cynical attacks on peaceful people, and 3 peaceful residents were killed. The biggest number of shellings was registered near Debaltseva, Starognatyevka, and Счастья. There were no military confrontation beyond the hostage areas. Also, during the latest day, 5 Ukrainian servicemen were killed. Our bodyguards continue to register the strengthened air intelligence. Yesterday at 7 p.m., the drone was revealed, which moved towards Mariupol at the altitude of 1 kilometer. Also, bodyguards observed demonstrative rotation of Russian military and troops in the occupied Crimea near Changar checkpoint. During the latest day, Ukroboronprom Cruise has undertaken overhaul of 432 additionally 9 military equipment, items of military equipment. President of Ukraine Petro Poroshenko suggested that members of parliament should review the draft laws on changing the administrative borders of several districts, like Novodarsky and Popasnyansky districts in Luhansk Oblast. This will allow to pay pensions and wages to local residents. This position of the president was discussed yesterday at the parliamentary factions. Yesterday at 1 p.m. Near Belovodsk, the tractor with a trailer was blown up because of the mine, and this is not the first case in this district. Despite the continuous shelling of of terrorists, communal services continue to undertake reconstruction works. As of now, Nizhnya Krynka and Nizhny Kommunar remains without electricity supply, and reconstruction is not possible because the bridge near Nizhnya Krynka was exploited by DNR terrorists, and was impossible to bring here special machinery for repair. In Mariupol, the situation remains under control. The National Guards continues to ensure check and controlling regime and checkpoints. Ukrainian service continues to reveal adverse actions. They search and neutralize the adversive groups. The fortification works continue.
Ukraine President Petro Poroshenko had telephone talks and consultations with Federal Chancellor of Germany, Ms. Angela Merkel, to state that local elections in some districts of Donetsk and Luhansk region shall be carried out in accordance with the Ukrainian legislation and in condition of sustainable truce. The German Chancellor supported the position of the Ukrainian President. The President also underscored the need to restore control over the Ukrainian-Russian border, and that the section that temporarily is under control of the terrorists, and demanded conditions to provide for Ukrainian bodyguards performing their functions under OSCE control and proper technical provision. Petro Poroshenko also notified of 112 humanitarian aid trucks from Germany crossing the border of Ukraine to deliver the aid to people in Donbass. President of Ukraine also held a meeting with aid to the State Secretary of the United States on Europe and Eurasia, Miss Victoria Nuland. Both sides underscored the need to establish full control over the Ukrainian-Russian border, deeming it as a key factor for further peaceful settlement in the region. President outlined the need to adopt immediate measures to avoid humanitarian catastrophe on occupied territories with the view of the winter period coming. This concerns also restoration of gas supplies, electricity supplies, and food supplies to the region. The newly elected High EU representative on external and security policy, Ms. Federica Mogherini, stated that the EU should make all the efforts it takes to prevent establishment of a land corridor between the Crimea and the territory of Russia. And she also mentioned that the EU sanctioned treatment of Russia shall depend on the situation in Ukraine. She further underscored the need to support the economy of Ukraine, also under the imminent threat of the energy crisis. And the General Secretary of NATO, Mr. Stoltenberg, is sure that the Russian Federation should change its behavior regarding Ukraine. And he said that Russia should use its influence to prevent.
Christina Shkodar, Ukraine TV channel. Would you please specify more accurately? You mentioned continuous attacks on the Donetsk airport. How many Ukrainian servicemen were killed and wounded, and what were the losses of the terrorists? And about the German humanitarian assistance, you mentioned that it is now moving towards the east. We have data about killed servicemen 5 killed servicemen. We have no information about specific locations where they were killed. About wounded people, the information will come later by the end of the day. As for the humanitarian assistance provided by Germany, in majority these are warm clothes and warm things to allow people stay comfortable in winter. Also, these are technical parts and equipment which is necessary for heating people, for supplying electricity, again to provide real assistance to people, unlike that water and salt which arrived from the territory of Russian Federation. Could you please comment why the number of red points has increased almost twice? How would you explain worsening of the situation during the latest day, and why this is done? You know, we do not have at our disposal the plans of actions of terrorists and the Russians, but you're right that they are now more active in their attacks.
Łukasz Gąciarski, TVN24 Polish News Channel Play. I'd like to come back to the question that was already asked you. When and where is the German convoy expected today? I was told it is Kiev. And what is going to be next? What is going to happen next? When and where it is going to be delivered afterwards? What cities in the east?
Дякую. Наразі ми не маємо інформації.
As of the moment, we do not have specific information about the route of this convoy, but we definitely know that it will be delivered to those places, to cities, towns, which are beyond the control of the terrorists, and delivery of this assistance will be controlled by the Red Cross representatives and those officers from the Emergency Situation Ministry, which is authorized to do this, to disseminate humanitarian assistance, and also taking into account a huge size of this humanitarian assistance. First, we will decide about specific warehouses where this humanitarian assistance will be stored, and later it will be delivered to people.
Association Press, do you have any plans regarding the securing of the state border of Ukraine? And given the recent dismissal of Mr. Litvin from the head of the border guard service, is it a part of this plan? Surely there are several plans regarding the situation and the way it might possibly unfold at the eastern border of Ukraine, particularly as regards those parts of it controlled by the Ukrainian border guards, and regarding those parts that are still not under control of Ukrainian border guards. Representatives of OSCE provide information about movements or compliance with the truth regime in various areas of the ATO territory. We collect to-date information, and we have no observations regarding the mission, the OSCE mission today. And there have been no incidents of border crossing attempts or clashes on the territory controlled by the Ukrainian border guards. 1+1 TV service regarding the humanitarian convoy when it is expected to enter Ukraine. It has already crossed the border of Ukraine. It is already inside the country. But when it will come to its destination and what this destination will be, there are several destinations for this aid to be delivered, not to have it amassed at one point. It will be distributed in various locations. How long might it take? Days, months, weeks? No, it will be a matter of days because no one will wait for months or weeks. This is why our Ukrainian servicemen and representatives of the emergency service are really interested in this humanitarian aid to be delivered as immediately as it is possible. Alexei, Spilno TV, there are news of a joint Russian OSCE Ukrainian monitoring group in the east of Ukraine, particularly in Debaltseve. Are there any representatives of Ukraine, and what are the early results of their work? And the second question concerns the exchange of Ukrainian servicemen and officers captured. There are people nearby Verkhovna Rada today who demand some answers in this regard. First, as regards those held hostages by terrorists, there are special units which deal specifically with negotiations on terms and conditions of freeing our hostages, and this work is done continuously. I may assure you that the Ukrainian special services and civic activists involved in that work, which includes, by the way, ex-military servicemen from Ukraine, do whatever they can to free as much hostages as possible. You might remember that within the last month, we saw actually a record number of people freed. And as we are still in the truth period, since 3rd of September, I can tell you that for that time we've been able to free more than 1,200 of Ukrainian citizens, both military servicemen and civilians caught by the terrorists. I would deem it as a huge progress, and we continue working and doing everything in this direction. Problem is that terrorists constantly change their terms and conditions, and we need to react to that. Nikolai, Wall Street Journal. Mr. Poroshenko in his phone talks with Angela Merkel yesterday mentioned some situation which might threaten the peaceful agreement, while the rhetoric is really harsh. Would you agree that we are really going through hard times with these peaceful settlement conditions? We have this truth period for a month and 3 days already, and we saw a decrease in the amount of shellings and shootings at the beginning. But the current facts state and confirmed increased intensity of shelling of Ukrainian positions, and I think that President's reaction was based on these recent facts and recent information he has. One more question on the same topic. If there will be more casualties among Ukrainian servicemen coming every day in this kind of truce period, do you see there is any possibility of continuing of this type of truth? The decision to cancel truce period is in the competence of the top leaders of the country, and at the moment there are highest level negotiations held in particular with the country that supplies terrorists with necessary military equipment and armaments. Top-level diplomacy has been involved, as well as civic organizations. It also includes the President of Ukraine, the Security and Defense Council, and other sources and channels. Everything is done to reduce the intensity of this standoff and to bring the situation closer to the first point of the Minsk memorandum regarding the full termination of exchange of fire. Would you elaborate on these high-level talks that Ukraine, you said, has been having at the moment? I'm not going to detail this because this is very special kind of work that needs special terms and conditions, and I can tell you that we do hope that they will be as efficient and successful as they can be. I will notify you further if any information will be available. Could you please still tell us more about Ukrainian participants in this joint Russian OSCE-Ukrainian work group? Because we were told that certain bodies are not in the know of who participates. The group includes Russian military officers as well as Ukrainian military officers and OSCE representatives. And given the intensity of the exchange of fire in some areas, the group is still unable to fully continue with their work. Nevertheless, they try to monitor the situation in individual areas and notify their management of the situation and operations carried in these regions. We already received 2 drones for monitoring purposes, and a group has been established to use these drones and provide more information. We do hope that it will allow us to monitor more efficiently the developments in the separation zone. If no further questions, I'd like to thank our speaker. We'll hear more from here.